It's official. Internet giant Google is being formally investigated by the federal government over antitrust allegations. The company confirmed it just a few hours ago. CNBC's John Ford is live in San Jose with more on this developing story. John.
Melissa, is this Microsoft all over again? That's the question. Google this afternoon confirmed the FTC has launched a formal review of its business. That could be a first step toward bringing formal accusations against the company. The situation smells a lot like the legal trouble Microsoft was in more than a decade ago. That almost resulted in getting the company broken up. So what's this about? The key issue seems to be Google's search engine. Rivals like Expedia are concerned that search results unfairly harm them and benefit Google's own services. Well, Google has faced accusations like this for a long time and has largely been able to fend them off. Part of the reason, in the U.S., for a dominant company to run afoul of regulators, you've usually got to prove that their actions harmed consumers. Traditionally, that means showing their actions led to higher prices. Google's consumer services are free, of course. But here's Google's vulnerability, though. Its real customers aren't the people doing searches. Its real customers are the advertisers who pay to appear beside search results. If Google's accusers can argue it's using its dominant position to rig online commerce so that Google always wins and its advertising customers lose, well, that's a potentially stronger argument. And that's the argument rivals have been making in Europe already. Price comparison site Foundum, legal search engine eJustice, and Microsoft itself, ironically enough, have all complained that Google's actions have resulted in higher ad rates and less competition. Google so far says it's confident it can win. Back to you.
Very interesting, John, and no surprise that Microsoft might complain. They are, of course, a big competitor of Google's in search and in other areas. Hang with us. Are these probes a big threat for Google? We're going to bring in Heath Terry, Managing Director of Internet Equity Research at Canaccord Genuity, and Keith Hylton. He's a law professor at Boston University. Welcome to you both. Professor Hylton, let me begin by asking you, from what you know of the complaints against Google, is this a case, it's a civil case that the FTC is apparently going to bring, is this a case that has a better than even chance of prevailing?
Oh, there's no way to say that this early on. The complaints that the FTC is looking into are the same complaints that are before the European Commission right now. And I wouldn't put a wager on how likely they are to be successful.
How hard is it, Kate? Let me come at it a different way then, Professor, if I might. How hard is it to prove these kinds of cases in today's courts, which I gather have narrowed the scope of antitrust proceedings considerably?
That's true, and the short answer is very hard. And it depends to some extent on the legal avenue that the FTC uses. So if the FTC is going under Section 2 of the Sherman Act, then they've got a really hard case to make, because most of the Supreme Court's case law under Section 2 of the Sherman Act has been pretty bad for the kind of complaints that the FTC is looking into in this case. It suggests that the law is unfavorable for those kind of complaints. The FTC perhaps has a better chance under Section 5 of the FTC Act, since Section 5 of the FTC Act gives the agency a bit more discretion and leeway. Okay. But even there, the law is becoming more strict over time.
Heath Terry, we know how long Microsoft had to battle these types of situations in Europe. How much of a distraction could this particular development be to Google and its business model?
You know, they've been going through this for years. I mean, no acquisition the company's tried to do, no product development that they've tried to make hasn't come under some scrutiny from some segment of the U.S. government, and particularly from the EU. So this has been a cost of doing business for them for at least the last 3 years or so, really, at the very least, since they acquired DoubleClick. So it's a distraction, but I think it's a distraction that they've gotten used to.
Does it change your opinion of the company or the stock at all?
No, not at all. You know, I mean, as you guys pointed out, this is a company that effectively gives their product away for free, so it's really hard to argue consumer harm here. And in terms of pricing, which is usually what the FTC looks to in cases of monopolies, this is a company that allows price to be set by a relatively transparent, open market with advertisers bidding against each other. So, I think this is going to be, clearly not an attorney, but I think this is going to be a hard case to prove. And in terms of its impact on the stock, this has been something that investors have expected. It's at least part of the reason that the company's trading at 12 times already. So I think it's in the stock for the most part.
John, when I'm looking at the very basics of what they're accused of here, it says they're accused of favoring their own services over rivals in their search results. I kind of assume as a consumer that that's what's going on. I mean, maybe... Is that not what generally goes on? I mean, I assume when I go on Google and I search, there's some component of it that drives me to something that benefits them in some way. Is that not what generally goes on?
Yeah, but something I think is interesting here that we got to be careful not to overlook is Google's definition of search and of kind of a search box is expanding. Now your Android phone, like everything on it, is kind of searchable. You can search by voice. You can search with pictures. You can search using GPS. So Google's using all of these different inputs and favoring its services. You got to remember, way back
that sounds
when,
like a good business
Microsoft
to me.
argued. It is a good business, and Microsoft argued way back when, hey, we're giving away a browser for free. Where's the consumer harm in that? Yet over time, it developed into a bit of a sticky situation for them. So, this could be an issue. Google's really got to keep an eye on it and not assume it's going to be a simple case.
Professor, compare, if you can quickly, this case or the particulars of it such that know them now with the Microsoft case, which basically boiled down to allegations of anti-competitive behavior based upon tying one product to another.
Well, if you focus on the tying element, then I suppose the cases appear to be different. That is, the FTC's case against Google looks different from the case that the Justice Department brought against Microsoft. But in terms of the general theory of the plaintiff's complaint, the cases are very much alike, because the general theory is that the dominant firm isn't doing enough to allow rivals to compete and to thrive on the market. That's the basic theory of both cases, and that's the kind of argument that has received a lot less support in the Supreme Court's recent case law.
Keith Terry, the market has taken Google down about 20%. If you're an individual investor with a long-term time horizon, do you accumulate it?
Absolutely. You look at where this stock's trading now from a valuation perspective, and the fact that the core business is still growing in the 20% range. You've got massive option value in mobile, display, local that we think Google's going to be able to take advantage of. There's going to be a lot of headline risk around this, competition from Facebook, competition from Twitter, the ongoing issues that the company has in terms of investment spending. But long term, if you've got a time horizon that's more than 12 months, we think this is a very attractive entry point.
All right, thank you all.
Keith, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
And straight ahead.